learning to inspire. Loving is dope. Learning to grow and learning to hope. Let go of the past. Release the ropes.
Learning to love, yeah, yeah. Learning to love with Able-Be love. Learning to love, yeah, yeah. Learning to love with Able-Be love. Learning to love, yeah. Inspired by God, lifted in love, yeah. Learning to love, yeah, yeah. Motivated by self, lifted in love, yeah, yeah.
Welcome to Learning to Love. I'm your host, April B. Love. Today's topic is being renewed by transforming your mind.
Yes.
And I have a special guest on the show with me today. I have Felice Martin. Hi, Felice. How are you?
Hello, I am fantastic. I'm so excited about sharing with your audience and getting this great information out. So thank you for the opportunity.
Awesome. And thank you so much for joining me today. Yeah.
Mhm.
So with that being said, please introduce yourself to our viewers.
Well, my name is Felice Martin. I'm a licensed professional counselor, neuro coach, and a neuro leader. And basically what that means is that I help people face the darkest parts of themselves in order to live a life of freedom. And I use the brain and neuroscience to make that happen, to help people renew their mind. I'm also known as the freedom facilitator and the attitude adjuster. So that's just a moniker that's gone with me since I've been practicing, and I appreciate the opportunity to share this information and help people gain and maintain that freedom that they desire.
Awesome. I really love that. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
So to get started, let's describe neuroscience informed therapy.
Well, neuroscience informed therapy is pretty new in the sense of it's gaining traction and momentum. So technically, neuroscience has been here. There's been more information found out about neuroscience and how the brain works for the last like 20 to 30 years. So that's very exciting. A lot of the neuroimaging machines have helped to really pinpoint like the areas of the brain that impact anxiety, depression, stress, and those types of things. So neuroscience is basically using the science of the brain to help people advance in life.
Okay, that sounds good. And it's all about, being in tune with ourselves mentally. I know, and of course, mental health awareness is on a rise right now, right? So we're trying to increase the awareness, but it still feels like, even though it's on the rise, it still feels like individuals are like walking time bombs, right? Like people are like waiting to explode, right? So with that being said, how important are developmental therapy sessions, like your general mental health wellness checks?
Oh, that is a great question. And you are right. People, it's almost like holding like a volcano. I always explain it, describe it that way. It's holding all of those emotions in and really not having a way to express those emotions. And we are seeing a lot of that. And it's not even age specific, it's throughout the spectrum of life. And so it's very, very, very critical to make sure that people have those checkups. And so don't go when there's quote unquote a problem. It's always important to like they say, maintain your mental health. So what does that mean? That means really tuning into your emotions. How am I feeling? What is this making me feel? Not people, we are so primed to talk about what we think as opposed to what we feel. And let me prove it to you. If you ask a person, you hear people talking and they tell you, they may say something like, I feel like you think you better than me, that you think that I'm beneath you. I feel that way. That is not a feeling. That is a thought that's projected on another person. The feeling would perhaps be, I feel disrespected. I feel embarrassed. I feel inadequate. I feel angry, I feel frustrated, I feel dismissed. Those are the feelings. So I feel angry when I think that you see me as less than you.
Mm.
Isn't that something? So being
Yeah.
able to express that in such a way that it's not it's not personalized, and that's key. And we all have to do it. And it's not a one and done. You don't just learn it and like everything changes overnight. You have to practice. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great, definitely a great analogy. Because a lot of times it's like, when individuals, again, people are so edgy, but it's just like it's something that you have to work on and be proactive with working on.
Exactly.
And then, being factual. And then also not being based off of just those feelings alone. So what causes those feelings? Why are you feeling that way? So yeah, definitely love that. And so, with that being said, now in regards to just behavioral issues and, mental health concerns, how important is it to understand and identify and understand the root cause?
Oh my goodness, that's the key. That is the key, is understand the root, because again, life is going to happen. Life is going to happen. Life is going to happen. So understanding, okay, what's the root here? What is the reason, my who, what, when, where, and how, and why I am doing or behaving, responding the way that I am. So once you know yourself, then you know what to do. So in all of your getting of why I'm feeling less than, what messages were sent to me when I was a child? What messages, or how did I interpret these things that happened to me? So once we're able to get to understand that, then that helps us to get to the root of whatever the discomfort is. Once I get to the root of that, then I'm able to like root that feeling of devalued, or feeling of low self-esteem, or feeling of rejection. Understand, when did I start feeling rejected? When did I start feeling abandoned? Oh, I started feeling that way when my parents left me.
Yeah.
Or look, when my parent, I gave this this picture that was, I worked so hard to create. I gave it to my parent, and my parent just laid it on the counter. Not having anything to do with me, but because they were like, had to look at a bill, or they had to shift their attention someplace else. However, I, as a little kid, interpreted that as rejection.
Yeah.
So I have to be honest. So when that thing follows me throughout the lifespan. So it follows me when it follows me at school, it follows me in my relationships, it follows me in the way I work with my children. So the thing is, you got to face it. You can lie to anybody you want to, but if you lie to yourself, then that means you're not getting to the root of your problem.
Right.
So, and then what happens is that you end up starting to project that onto other people. You start to self-sabotage. You start to engage in behaviors that justify what you're thinking about yourself, which is based on something that was a misunderstanding. And so that's, it goes again to understanding the emotions, and then once you understand the emotion, then you understand the root. So it all goes together.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I know, so Gandhi says, right? Gandhi said, your beliefs become your thoughts, right? And your thoughts become your words. And then your words becomes your actions, and your action becomes your habit. And so, and we think about that, right? And then, and so with that being said, from a neuroscience perspective, how do we influence or transform our minds? How do we do that?
Oh my goodness, you just like asked the perfect questions. How do we transform our mind? Oh my goodness. And how do we do that using neuroscience, which is the science of the what? It's the brain. Going back to, in all of your get an understanding. Okay, why am I doing this? How can I change these things? And you're right, it's the thoughts. So in neuroscience and in therapy, we would call that CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. Okay. So basically, and I'm relating that to the quote that you made regarding Gandhi. So thoughts, what am I thinking? How do I capture that thought? How do I change that thought? How do I challenge that thought? So that is very important. Those are some of the things that you learn in therapy. And you have to know, in order to know how to change what it is that you're thinking, you have to know the root of that thought. Okay, you have to know the root of that thought. So once I know that thought, then, and I know the root of that thought, then I'm able to understand, okay, so how do I feel about it? How do I feel about this thing? All right, so this is how I feel about it. What did I do that was, what habit did I have? Yeah. And listen, that habit is the habit part of our brain. That habit that we engage in is impacted by what we call the basal ganglia part of our brain, which is the habit forming part of our brain. It has a name. Yeah. We're not just doing stuff to be doing stuff. Okay, so we're not doing stuff just to be doing stuff. So once you understand that habit, and it's an old habit, and you can change that to a new habit. So for example, if you're feeling inadequate and you may have a tendency to isolate, okay, to go off by yourself, to say, or even if you haven't been traumatized, a lot of times the message is they should know what I need. They should know what I want. No, they don't. You need to open up your mouth and ask for what you want. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so, and the beautiful thing is that there's a part of our brain that tells us there's something wrong, there's something going on, this thing does not feel right. And so once you get to that place, then you start exploring the who, what, when, where, and why, and how, the root. Why am I thinking this way? How do I feel about this way? What did I do? And what do I want to change? And again, you have to be honest with yourself. And so that is how neuroscience impacts therapy, and that's what I share with the people that I work with. That's what I practice myself. Mm-hmm. And so those are the keys, I believe, to really, really, changing your mind, renewing your mind. Yeah. Yeah. That's so important.
Yeah, and you have to want to. I mean, you really have to want to. And that is where some individuals are really stuck, right? Because it's one of those things where, there's a need, there are examples out there, right? We all can say we do know some good, wholesome people, and it might not be in every case, right? But you really have to want to be better. And I think, striving to want to be better, then you're more receptive. Right. So when someone's providing you with some constructive criticism and things like that, you're more receptive. And then also you're proactive in going out, getting those counseling sessions, just having regular therapy sessions. I mean, I can't stress it enough. I'm always talking about it on the show and just in general. We have to completely take care of ourselves mentally as well. So we don't want to go in and be reactive. We don't want to go in when there's a serious problem. We want to go in and be proactive. So just like you get your annual physical or annual wellness checks, you still need your annual mental, but you need that more than just annual, right? You need just those regular checkups throughout, and just have that conversation, because you uncover so much about yourself and learning more about yourself. Becoming better as a person, you have better relationships.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's great. So you have those better relationships internally. So you have a better relationship with yourself. And because you have a better relationship with yourself, you're able to have a better relationship with others, which that is brain-based as well. That goes into that bonding chemical that's released throughout our body and our brain. And it so impacts the way we show up in the world, and how people say the energy that we put out in the world as well. So yeah, that relationship is twofold. Yeah. Yes, a
Wow.
twofold relationship,
It
the
is.
internal and external relationship. So it's a beautiful source of healing. And so really understanding the neuroscience of bonding, understanding how we're able to, another technical word is altruism. So we're able to give back to other people and we're able to do for other people. And we do that from a cup that's full, right? Because we understand who we are. We understand what we believe in. We understand how we are. We understand why we are. And we can have fun with ourselves. We can laugh at ourselves. We can laugh with ourselves, you know. So that, I think that is so important. And I think that is so important. I think a lot of times that so much time is spent on that judgment of self in a way that's like judgmental, is not accepting of who we are.
Yeah.
It's not accepting of what has happened. And so it's almost as if we're running from, that true, authentic self.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Awesome. So we'll be right back after this short break. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for staying tuned in. Again, this is the Learning to Love show. I'm your host, April B. Love. I do have the lovely Felice Martin joining me today. Yeah. So we are going to pick right back up right where we left off. So I know you were talking about like self-awareness and like altruism and things of that nature. Kind of brings me to another point, like I wanted to discuss, because there are a lot of concerns with how some African Americans treat each other, like the lack of support, the whole crab in the barrel syndrome, right? So describe the underlying causes and some steps to overcome this.
Oh, yes. And I'm glad you brought that point up because it is that crabs in the barrel mentality. And if we go with mentality, that's the part of that has been programmed into our DNA, people who are of African descent. And one thing that I've been studying more of is a concept called post-traumatic slave syndrome. And so that's actually tied into what we call epigenetics. Now, I'm going to tell you these names, but I'm going to break it down so simple because I'm a very simple person. I want to understand. I want to be able to talk about this. So when you think about, let me start with epigenetics. When you think about epigenetics is basically those things that have been genetically programmed into our being. So for example, even when you go to the doctor's office, they always ask you, is there a family history of diabetes, heart disease, cancer, so forth and so on. So you get asked that question by these physical doctors. They're asking you that question so that they can understand what your history is, your physical history, what you are prone to, okay? And so we also have what is called epigenetics, and that is a look at our mental history. Basically, those things that have been programmed into our DNA. So, for example, I'm going to get there, and I'm going to break this down as simple as possible. I want to make sure you guys are with me and understand what epigenetics are. So, when you think about epigenetics, and there's a lot of research on this, and it's actually been utilized in the Holocaust Jewish victims, and so there's history there, and then also even from Africans who were enslaved and brought to various countries. So anyway, basically, when you think about epigenetics, I'm not sure if you guys have ever seen this, but I've seen it. Think about, you have two parents. There's this research study that actually showed you'd have two parents. You'd have a white female parent and you have a Black female parent. These two parents have a son. So of course, a Black son and a white son. All right. So they're at the doctor's office, and both of the parents are complimented on how well behaved their children are. Okay. And how, they did a great job while they were waiting. So the responses were different. The white parent had the mother actually was like, "Oh, thank you so much. She always does such a great job. I appreciate that." Okay. The Black parent was like, "Well, I'm glad he was acting like he had some sense, because I tell you, at home, he is always acting up. He just, I'm glad you was acting like you had some sense." Two different responses.
Okay.
Two different responses. And I want you to think if you've seen this before. Yes, yes. And there was a part of compassion. I'm like, yeah, it's still going on. So what does that mean? It means there's work to be done.
Yeah.
That means even what you're doing right now is work.
Yeah.
So hope somebody is going to see this and understand that behavior was handed down from generation to generation to generation to generation to generation.
Wow.
So that is epigenetics is tied into post-traumatic slave syndrome. And I'm not even getting into it. I've been formulating something in my mind about post-traumatic slave syndrome, and not only how it has infected African people who were enslaved, it's also affected white people. And so because they've seen their forefathers beat these Black kids, their friends, the people they played with, they've seen that behavior, barbaric behavior. So that behavior has epigenetically, come on now, been passed down generation. I am not making this stuff up. Y'all go read it.
Yeah.
Go read it. Because
Yeah,
this is not a conspiracy. I want you to understand. So yes, so it's not only it's impacted how we as humans interact with each other.
Yeah. Wow. And I tell you, that's deep. That's pretty deep, because I do notice that a lot of times in there. I mean, I've seen that, throughout my life, even up to adulthood, of course, where some of the parents is, you think that they just don't know how to accept a compliment. But, it's, appears to be epigenetics, and it's something that was passed down. And that kind of comes to another thing. It's like we're doing things, we're repeating things, these generational patterns, right? That are passed down, and we don't even know why we're doing it.
Right.
Yeah, we're repeating these things, but we really don't know why. I mean, even down to cooking, a friend and we were having a conversation, and I'm like, why are you putting that into that particular dish? But you don't know why. So it's just kind of like, we're doing things. These are intergenerational patterns, and we don't even really know why we're doing them. But yeah, and then as it relates to like the whole crab in the barrel mentality, I know that's like, because there are a lot of successful African Americans out there, but it's almost like once you get to a certain level, it's not really so much that you've left, the crowd per se, but it's like the crowd has turned on you, so you don't have a choice. So it's kind of you have to either stay there, stay stagnant, or if you move on, you really have to move on. You have to you've moved on, you've progressed, but you can't really go back and get them and help them progress, because now you feel like you're better than them, right? Because this is how they perceive, even though you may be genuinely wanting to help them get where they need to be,
Yep. And it's really sad that happens. And again, I believe it's programmed into our brain. And I know that was pretty intense. And I want you to understand that there is a way, because once we understand what's going on, then we can make a choice to say, you know what, I'm going to do something different. So just because this person is successful does not mean I'm going to treat them differently. And just because they're successful, they're not going to treat me differently. So yeah, I mean, the reality is that at the end of the day, it becomes a choice. I wanted to share with you a book, and so definitely, I hope if your audiences read it, it's great. It's an educational book, but it's a book that you'll have a range of emotions as you read the book. But remember, this is all information. That's all it is.
Okay.
So once you do, you read it, what are you going to do with this information? And so this is, I hope you can see it in here, post-traumatic slave syndrome.
Yes.
And it's by Dr. Joy DeGruy. And so I
Okay.
really hope maybe put it in the notes. It's a really great book. And she talks a lot about the impact of enslavement. I know I'm kind of going off, but
Well, no,
it all ties together.
Yeah, it all ties together. No, I definitely see where you're going with that. Look, I'm an Aries, honey, and we tie everything together. We kind of look
the connectors.
You close the door, and I'd be like, "See, that's what this came from." When you close that door, was like, but yeah,
right.
no. Trust me, I definitely get it. So yeah, so tell us a bit about some of your services that you offer. And I know we have your web address listed here, but yeah, just tell us about some of your services.
Yes, so I am in private practice. So basically, I provide therapy, both individual, family, as well as couples therapy. I provide that. I'm really very excited. And of course, you'll have that information. I'm very excited. I've been doing a lot of training when it comes to virtual reality therapy. So my goal is to make it accessible. I want to not only make it accessible to my clients, but to other clients, to other mental health professionals. I'm actually working on a certification program to train and certify neuro-informed therapists. In addition to that, I'm training on neurofeedback. So the thing is, it's like when you find something that works and it works. So basically doing more of not only the talk therapy, but the change therapy. So I'm not only changing through our communication, I'm also changing through the brain. So marrying the two of those. So yes, and you can reach me on the information provided below. I'm doing my best, you guys, to learn these things and to share this information. That's my biggest hope, is to be able to do that. I'm on Instagram, Felice Martin, Felice Martin, Martin, LPC. You can find me on Instagram. And that's me. I just love being free, and I want to share that freedom. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Felice. I know, you've actually, I know you've triggered a lot of thoughts today. I'm telling you, because you provided some really great information. Give us some stuff to go research, right?
Yes.
Awesome. So thank you so much for being a guest on the show today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. You're doing a fantastic job. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Awesome. And to all of our viewers, thank you so much for tuning in today. Again, this is April B. Love and the Learning to Love Show. Join me next Wednesday and every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you'd like to be a guest, visit aprilblove.com. Again, that is aprilblove.com, and I'll see you next week.